Hello, good morning. I wanted to make a live instead of a story because I just want to talk for a minute about something. Something that I'm thinking about and writing about this morning is the sense of aging, as my very tired post late night face is looking a little aged. As I head towards my 30th birthday in a few weeks, thinking about how in the last year I've noticed aging in my face for the first time, which has been interesting as someone who's always looked quite youthful and always had people guessing me as a younger age than I am. And I'm just thinking about my reaction to my aging and how it's not something I expected to have any problem with aging or to find it scary. But what I'm realizing is that we don't have, or at least in my experience, I don't feel like we have many models for what life can or should be post your 30s, right? I just think about all of the media that I consume, all the books that I've read, the songs that I listen to, the movies and TV shows that I've watched. We have a lot of material around childhood and coming of age and the teen years. There is a lot given to the stories of your 20s and the experiences that often are experiences of that phase of life, like falling in love and having your heart broken and becoming an adult and figuring your shit out, and all the other kinds of stories that are generally typical to your 20s. And I'm just thinking, I don't think I have that many models or ideas or concepts of what life can be in your 40s and beyond. And that's probably partially due to the structure of our patriarchal culture and how, especially for women, for both genders, it's not that there's only two genders, but for men and women, we have these prescribed roles. I feel like if I think about what's the story of a woman past her 30s, most of the stories or characters that I've seen, it's like you are now a mother, so you just devote your whole life to your children, or if you're a man, then you have devoted your whole life to your work. And then maybe I think about American Beauty and stories like that, where the man or woman in their sort of 40s or 50s has this a midlife crisis or a revelation about how everything, they've just been asleep this whole time and everything that they've been doing with their lives has been totally fucked, and they have to have this new awakening. But that's kind of a very limited model of one option for how life can go. So I just had this realization of how curious it is that we don't have that many models for what life can be like after you turn 30, really. Have kids, devote your life to your kids. Have job, devote your life to your job. Get tired and old and shitty. And it's not that I feel any pressure to that I'm going to do those things, or that I'm worried about those things happening to me. Excuse me, but I'm just I'm trying to picture myself into my 40s and my 50s and my 60s going, I don't have a reference point for that. I don't, there is something in me that's just life ends, you're dead after you're 40. Because there's not that much interesting, compelling media around it, or stories that we have in our culture. Everything is so heavily focused on youth, so heavily focused on the experiences that you have as a kid in your teens and in your 20s. after 30, it's like you're just expected to sort of just fizzle off into the background. And I'm sure that there's so much more living to be done, you know? I've lived for 30 years. Hopefully I'll live for at least another 30. And if I think about how much I've changed as a person, like even in the last year, in the last 3 years, huge. In the last 5 or 6 years, you know, I'll be so different by the time I'm 40, and there's so much more learning and growing and living to be done. And as you get older and smarter and better at it, and you can follow, you know, you learn what to follow in order to grow, it becomes like exponentially faster. So that's cool. There's a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to as you get older. A whole other life to be lived in my next 30 years. But it's just so interesting that I'm like, I have no idea what to expect. I need to talk to older people more often, I think. And we all do. And I wish that we had more of a culture of young and old people hanging out together and sharing their experiences, because it's so valuable. I have a couple of older women friends in their, I mean, I want to say 40s, but I feel like they're probably more like 50s, maybe 60s, because like my perception of age is also kind of strange in that, like, I still think of like my mom as being like in her mid-30s and like anyone who's kind of like a bit older and wiser and grayer is probably like in their 40s. But then like my best mate is also 40 years old. And anyway, age is a weird perceptual thing in general. So I guess in summary, or in conclusion, I would love to hear if anyone wants to message me, if you have any resources. I don't just mean like useful self-development resources. I mean like stories or poems or like art and media that talks about the story of being older than 30. 40 and onwards would be awesome. Like, just, I want to start developing some sense of that story in my head of like what life can be as you're older, and just not that this like it all stops when you hit 40 and there's nothing more interesting or exciting or of value after that, because I'm sure life will just keep blowing my fucking mind, and you know, there's no reason to expect otherwise. But I haven't seen that many stories, and the stories that I have seen are mostly a bit depressing. And I'm sure it doesn't have to be that way. So I just wanted to have this little ramble about that and put it in live so that I didn't take up a million miles of story space. So thank you for listening, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on aging and the experience of a human being post 30, post 35, post 40, what you expect if you're not there yet, what you have seen, what the stories you have come across are. Some writers or artists or whoever who create stuff based around the life after 40. And yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and me and my starting to age face wish you all the best.